Good afternoon, Year 3. Today we are going to do our Encompass lesson, okay? So turtles, we've had a go at this live, which is really exciting, okay? But the video is here to help you as well. So here are some of the words you might need this week. But your anchor, okay, is name 3 pharaohs. So give yourselves a couple of minutes, see if you can remember the names of 3 pharaohs. Okay, so I've put some of the options here. You could have had Cleopatra, Ramesses, Hatshepsut, which we found very funny to say in school, or Tutankhamun. But there are lots of others, so if you send them in with your Encompass work, we will let you know if you got some of the others, okay? Right then, so today our objective is our question, what was daily life like for the ancient Egyptians? And your objective is to understand the daily life of an ancient Egyptian. So at this starting point here, you're going to be able to discuss the daily life of ancient Egyptians and name the jobs that they might have. You are going to be able to compare daily life in ancient Egypt to daily life today in England. And then going even deeper, you're going to be able to think about the different parts of the day and create a timetable for an ancient Egyptian adult. So, the River Nile. Now, we know how important the Nile was, okay? And it runs through Egypt, and most people live along and around it today. This was also the case in ancient times, and it's because the land near the Nile is where the crops could be grown, and the rest of Egypt is a desert. The most important thing the Nile provided to the ancient Egyptian was the fertile land, so the land that was really, really rich with the soil like we spoke about. Most of Egypt is desert. Along the river Nile, the soil is rich and good for growing the crops. So the best place to grow crops was by the river because, as you can see in this picture, it was really fertile and all the rest of it is desert and you can't grow crops in the sand, okay? So there were no cameras thousands of years ago to take photos in ancient Egypt, but using different sources of evidence, there are some pictures that have been drawn by an artist to show what life might have been like. So what is happening and why do you think that? So we're going to go through these pictures, okay, and you're going to think about what might be happening and why you think that. So in this picture, what do you think is happening and why do you think that? So I think they are on a boat in the Nile because I can see that, and I think they might be transporting some goods because we know already that that's one thing boats on the Nile were used for. Okay, and then you've got this picture. So what I want you to do is choose 2 of these to tell me what you think is happening and why. Okay, so what do you think is happening in this picture and why? Then you've got this one. Okay, this one's a little bit more obvious. And then there's this one. So what's happening and why is it happening? Okay. So, we're going to just talk about some of the other things in the daily life of an ancient Egyptian now. So, let's think about their clothes. So, what did they wear? Looking nice and being clean was very important to the Egyptians. Nearly everyone, men and women, wore jewellery of some type. The rich wore jewellery made of gold and silver, while the poorer people used copper. So that's how important it was that even poorer people made jewellery but used a less expensive or less royal material. Makeup was also important. It was worn by both men and women, and they had cosmetic cases they would carry around, and the main type of makeup used was eye paint. Because it was so hot, most people wore white linen clothes. Men wore kilts and women wore a straight dress. Slaves and servants would wear patterned fabrics. Why do you think slaves would wear patterned fabrics? Think about what I've just said about what people wear. Why do you think slaves and servants would wear patterned fabrics? Okay, so they're jobs. Ancient Egypt was a complex society, so it was busy and big, okay? And it needed people doing lots of different tasks and jobs. Some of the jobs they had included farmers, and most of the people were farmers. They grew barley to make beer, wheat for bread, vegetables such as onions and cucumbers, and flax to make into linen. They grew their crops near the banks of the Nile because, as we know, the rich black soil was good for crops. You could have been a craftsperson. So there were a wide variety of craftsman jobs, and they included carpenters, weavers, jewelers, leather workers, and potters. And how skilled a craftsman was would determine his success. So the more skilled the craftsmen were, the better they were at being successful. Soldiers. So becoming a soldier was an important opportunity to rise in society, so to move up and become more important. Most of the soldiers were footmen. There was a well-defined hierarchy in the Egyptian army. In peacetime, soldiers would help the government with government projects such as moving stone for a pyramid or digging a canal. So when they weren't fighting, they would help the government with the things I've just said. You could have been a scribe, and these were really important people in ancient Egypt, as they were the only people who knew how to read and write. Scribes came from wealthy families and took years and years of training to learn the complex Egyptian hieroglyphics. And we know that hieroglyphics is the Egyptian language in which they read and they wrote. And then the final jobs on my list are priests and priestesses. So a priest and a priestess are responsible for the temples and held the religious ceremonies. So there's 5 jobs there that you could have had. Which job would you have preferred if you lived during ancient Egyptian times? Okay, so your first challenge today is you are going to compare these 5 things from ancient Egypt to modern life. So what were their houses like and how were they built? And then think about today. The jobs, and then think about jobs today. How to survive. Death, so think about pyramids, what they're used for, and what happens to somebody when they die in ancient Egypt. We spoke about it briefly last week. And then travel. Think about how they had to travel during ancient Egypt and then how we travel today. I don't need lots and lots of information in here, but I need more than just a few words, okay? So try your hardest with that. Once you've done that challenge, you've got to create a timetable for an adult living in ancient Egypt, and I've given you a Waggle for some inspiration. So I've not done every hour of the day. I've chosen 6 different points of the day. So I've said 7 a.m, wake up at sunrise and walk down to the Nile to collect some fruit for the day. 8 a.m, walk back to the house and give the fruit to my wife. 10 a.m, go and help my brother build his house with mud from the Nile. 12 p.m, so lunchtime, return home from building to eat some figs and melon for my lunch. 2 p.m, go and gather some crops ready to send down the Nile to trade for riches. And then 5 p.m, go home at sunset for my dinner of goat and vegetables and a drink of beer made from barley. Okay, so you can use that to help you, but please don't copy it. I need your own ideas, okay? I know lots of you like my ideas, but they are mine and you need to use your own. And then challenge 3. You need to write a short paragraph explaining one of these 3 things. So housing, jobs, or clothes. And I have uploaded this flip chart as a PDF, so you can go back to these pages here, especially for jobs and clothes, to help you, okay? So I just need a short paragraph explaining about one of those 3 things. If you want to, you can mention all 3 things. I don't mind, but it needs to explain what they were like during the ancient Egyptian times. If you need any help, just let me or Mrs. Edwards know, and then I'll be back next Monday for another Encompass lesson. Have a lovely afternoon.